Okay guys, it's March 24th. Just a little past 7 o'clock in the evening. Working on prepping this Crossrail for welding, and just thought I'd bring you guys along for this part, and just wanted to show you what I was doing. I think in the previous video I showed you I'd made my marks, and probably a bunch of different ways you can do this, but I made my marks using the tape and then pretty much placed them where I wanted them, and then I only drilled one on each side so that I could test fit it to make sure that it was going to line up with the flange itself there. And I did that for each one of these areas. I've got the Crossrail all welded up where we split it at. This part all welded, and this was a little tricky right here. We got the seams welded here. So everything's been welded. I've checked it for pinholes in the dark with a flashlight. And now I'm just in the process of removing my epoxy where the plug welds are going to be. I still got to drill this out to 1/4-inch holes and deburr it. And once I finish the actual plug weld placement and get them prepped, I'm going to come in here and start working some of this with a piece of 180. Just feather it out a little bit, and I'll probably come in here and lightly put some epoxy in here. That's what I'm thinking on both of these. But anyway, thought I'd just turn the camera on, show you guys what I'm up to. I'll make a little bit more progress. I'll be back. Okay guys, what you're looking at here is the Crossrail with the plug welds on the back side, all prepped for some weld through primer. I went ahead and just taped up the surrounding areas, and I've scuffed the epoxy here and went ahead and cleaned everything with some wax and grease remover. So we're getting ready to put down the weld through primer. That right there is what I'm going to be using. I'm going to do one coat, just a real light coat over these spot weld locations. Alright, here it is starting to flash. And it flashes to pretty much a flat color here. You'll see the shine going away from it. Seems to be pretty good weld through primer. I've used it throughout this build so far, and I really like it. I had a piece of scrap metal that I put some on some welds and just set it outside, and it seemed to hold up really well. I set it outside for about 6 months and I still didn't see any rust forming around the weld or anything. So that's what I got going on, and I'll show it to you once we get all this old newspaper off of it. Okay guys, got our weld through primer on our plug weld areas. This is also where our weld seam was on the back that we put our epoxy in. And I'm just going around. There's a couple of these places here, like right here, that just barely got a piece of bare metal showing. Just take a little brush and wiped over it. This is just a little bit of mix that I had left over from the epoxy from last night, where I put epoxy over the weld seam. Of course, I've got a soft tape edge right here, so once this is installed I can sand that out easily. All this, when it's on the car and on the rotisserie, will get a final sand, and it'll probably get 2 more coats of epoxy and be done. This is the color I'm planning on leaving it in. So again, I've showed you guys that. That's the factory oxide, red oxide. It's pretty close. And all these colors on these cars is just a little bit different. I think I've explained that before. The way it was explained to me was as the cars was dipped in this red oxide primer, the older the primer was, the darker it got. So therefore, some of these cars will be almost red and some of them will be almost brown. And this particular car of mine is more brown than the red. And then when you take pictures of it, and I don't know how, I'll have to see how it shows up on camera, but the flash on the picture will always make it look red, even though it's more of a brown color. I've got a few of these little areas here I'm going to touch up, just some bare metal spots with the brush, and then I'm going to turn the camera back on and show you what we're going to do next. Okay guys, here is the front side of the Crossrail, and what I'm going to do right now is I've feathered this epoxy out on our weld seams in the front on both sides, and in the corners here. Now I had trouble welding in these corners. You could see where the metal shrunk pretty good there. And that's like that on both sides. Like I said, I had some trouble in these corners. Kept wanting to blow holes and everything. It's real thin there, where I guess the metal is stretched pretty good there. But what I'm going to do is clean this metal with some wax and grease remover. We're going to let the light set on it for about 30 or 40 minutes. This little bit that we had left over, I'm going to brush paint it on these weld seams, and we'll probably put a couple coats on, and then once we get it on the car, all this is going to be sanded. We're going to finish it in a full grind, sand everything, and then like I said, do a couple coats on the whole thing, because the tail panel will go over this. And this will smooth out any imperfections. We'll kind of use this over mix here as a little bit of filler, I guess, in case there's any just imperfections. Not that you're ever going to see it, but we're here. We've got this stuff mixed up. It's going to go bad if we don't use it, so we might as well put it on here, and it'll make for a nicer job. Like I said, it's Project Overkill. So that's what I'm doing, and I'll bring you back when we get that done. Okay guys, here is the Crossrail. Just about done with the welding prep. The back side, it turned out really nice. The weld seam is right in that area there, and of course in that area, and also in the corners, right in there, and there was some more right in there in that area. Got all the plug welds prepped with the weld through primer. The weld seam on this back side, you can still make it out right in there. Of course, that's going to be underneath the trunk. You guys remember we took the overmix that we had, and we went ahead and just applied it with a brush. And while I'm waiting on some other things to dry here in the garage, I'm gonna go ahead and take some 180 and work this area down just to see how it comes out. And I'll bring you back after I do that. Okay guys, I've got the Crossrail sanded in those areas that we brush painted the overmix on. Overall, I'm real happy with the way it turned out. It's still got to get a little bit more sanding, not 100% yet. Still got just a few little low areas right in there, you can see them. But for the most part, it came out really nice. These ends are going to need a little bit more work. And right in there, it's going to need a little bit more work. And this end over here, like I said, I had trouble with those pieces. But overall, I believe it's going to be okay for what it is. The next time you guys see this, I'll have it mocked up on the car with all the clamps, add some sheet metal screws. We'll prep everything and get it ready for to do the plug welds. Once we get the plug welds done, we'll grind those down and we'll do a final sand on it with 180. And then once that's done, we'll come in with the DeVilvis SRI Pro, and we'll put 2 more coats of epoxy on it. Well guys, that's all I got. April is going to be a pretty slow month for me here in the garage. I've got to pull an out-of-town tour for 7 days, and then when I get back from that, me and my wife's going on a little trip for our anniversary. I'm only going to have probably 2 weeks worth of work toward the end of April, and hopefully we'll get this Crossrail finalized, and we'll get the bumper brace brackets welded in as well. Appreciate all my subscribers and everybody following the channel. I've got some daily driver stuff I'm also working on, so that's taking up a little bit of my time, but we'll talk to you when I have a little bit more show. Thank you guys.